Hi there, today we're going to take a look at a sorceress off-meta build that you won't find anywhere on Maxroll. We're basically at the end of the season, and most people have already finished their seasonal journey anyway. As we've seen, the top meta build for the Sorc in Season 12 is the Lightning Cracking Energy build. For now, let's put that aside and show you an interesting build that definitely isn't as strong, but it's completely different from the others. Let's break it down. The whole build revolves around a ring called X-Fall's Corroded Signet, which got a pretty interesting buff in Season 12. So I decided to test it out and see if that buff is actually worth it. In the old days, the ring had a lucky hit chance to erupt damage into the surrounding area. Clearly, that wasn't enough, and the ring was never played. I honestly didn't see it in a single functional build. With Season 12, it got a buff, and now it no longer relies on a lucky hit chance. Instead, the tooltip tells us that every type of damage over time effect applies this explosion over a period of 4 seconds. So, we're going for a guaranteed proc now, no more Lucky Hit RNG. In short, every type of dot effect applies this new dot from the ring. Damn, it's getting boring just talking about it. Let's show you a bit of how it actually works in practice. It's a total lobotomy, just like everything else in this game. You drop a firewall and a blizzard, and then you just mash all your summon skills on cooldown. Every few seconds, you pull everything into a pile, drop another firewall and blizzard, burn through your mana, and keep mashing those summon spells. It's a constant loop, so don't expect a degree in quantum physics here. When things get too hot under your feet, evade and teleport will get you out of the mess, alright? In this build I put together, it works so that X-Fall procs from the firewall dot and the blizzard dot, giving you 2 X-Fall dots. There's even a possibility for a third proc from a poison dot, because the tooltip on X-Fall says it procs from every type of dot. Every type. That means we have options with cold, fire, and poison. We could only achieve that if we were wearing the Andariel's Visage Helm, but we would lose too much damage multiplication that way, so in this version, I don't have it. I don't think it's worth it. That's why I'm running Heir of Perdition. It's for the lucky hit, which I'll explain in a second, plus the core skill damage for Blizzard and Firewall, and that 60 times multi. The downside of the dot that X-Fall gives is that it only applies to one target, which then explodes and causes chaos around it. It's good to have some way to group mobs together. I use the Nagu-Kry runes for that. Item-wise, this build isn't that much different from other sorceress builds this season, because everyone is building very similarly due to the damage scaling. Every Sorc wants to scale their damage as high as possible, so the same items keep popping up. Damn you, Blizzard. We've got Heir of Perdition, Shroud of False Death, Temerity so we don't die, Orsivan for that 160 times multi without defensive skills on the bar, Starless Skies, and, of course, the engine of the build, the X-Fall ring. We want an amulet with as many passives as possible that increase multi-damage. We're looking for passives like Glass Cannon, Inner Flames, and Permafrost, and here's where it starts to get a little different, alright? I'm stacking Lucky Hit because besides the procs from X-Fall, we have several other effects proccing here. I'm using Frostburn gloves. You're probably thinking, is this guy crazy? Yeah, they're usually trash gloves. They are, but they actually fit quite well here because I have 2 damage procs, fire and cold. They stack additive cold and fire damage and multi-damage for both cold and fire as well. When I'm using Blizzard and Firewall, it just makes sense, and suddenly that trash item is actually useful, right? Besides that, on the offhand, I have a damage proc as a temper, plus an aspect for another 30 times multi when I have a barrier, which I always have thanks to Temerity. On the boots, I have mastery skills for Blizzard and Firewall damage, along with mana per second to keep things moving. I also have Lucky Hit mana on the amulet, and Starless, which calms down the mana drain by reducing resource costs. That's my entire mana management. The boots have an aspect for Lucky Hit to help with procs from the gloves, offhand, and amulet. We're also stacking Lucky Hit from Starless and Perdition. More Lucky Hit means more damage procs, and that pays off. As for the rest of the spells I'm using, they're basically fillers that increase the damage multi through side effects. We have Familiar, Lightning Spear for stun and vulnerable, Ice Blades every 6 seconds to proc Elemental Summoner for a cold 50 times multi and vulnerable, and Hydra every 6 seconds to proc Elemental Summoner for a fire 50 times multi. These are all summon spells. Why? Because of the Nagu-Kry runes. Every few seconds, they pull everything into a pile so Xfall can do more damage. For the second set of runes, I'm using Ahukax for even more damage. For enchantments, we use Familiar for 40% damage for Cold, Fire, and Lightning with Enchantment Master. And the second one is Firebolt, with Glinting Firebolt for even more burn if someone is outside the pot. Paragons. The starter board is Tactician for a 15 times multi. This works perfectly with Orsivan. You don't have to worry about a thing. The second board, Enchantment Master node, works great with the summon spells you're spamming. Here, the Elementalist Glyph stacks damage from the elements of your summon spells. Boom. Moving on. Next is the Fundamental Release node for more multi-damage with the Control Glyph for a 20 times multi. The fourth board is the Frigid Fate node for a 60 times multi, stacking as much damage as possible. And the Unleash Glyph helps a bit with mana here. The last board is of course the Elemental Summoner node, which increases multi-damage as we cast summon spells, and the Exploit Glyph for vulnerable damage. This is just a quick summary. If you want all the details, you'll find a link to the build in the description where you can check everything. Skills, paragons, the whole deal. With this build, I wanted to see if the Blizzard buff was worth it and if the ring could be played at some level. Because Sorc builds are always the same season after season, only the power balance changes. So, at the end of one stage, let's try an interesting test. I have pretty good items with stars, my glyphs are maxed at 100, and overall, of course you could squeeze out more with better, greater affixes on the gear, and a better amulet. The build works, as you can see, and it's actually quite a bit of fun. I enjoyed playing it, but I hit a wall during testing. The damage scaling for this build ends around pit level 90. I think with maximum optimization, you could probably reach pit 95. It's weak against bosses, so all content on Torment 4 and 5 will be chill, but the bosses just take a bit longer to kill. On the other hand, it's quite tanky, so it's playable, it's fine, but you won't be doing top endgame content like lair bosses or Blood-Soaked Torment 7 with this. It's just not meta. I'd rank it as A- or B tier. It felt very similar to a Blizzard build or Meteor, maybe even better. There's also the option of the Andariel's Visage variant if anyone wants to try it out. You won't find this build anywhere on Maxroll. I was inspired by an idea from Lurkin. I wish Blizzard would give it a little more love. It would be really good with something like a 30% damage increase to the ring's dot, or making it so the damage spreads among nearby mobs and becomes a stronger dot on single targets. It would work so much better, but we've gotten used to how Blizzard does things, haven't we? No. Damn it. The last time I tested this build, I found some weird bug that happens with the Butcher when I was trying blood-soaked dungeons and lair bosses. Either it's incorrectly showing how much the dot is taking from their health bars, or the Butcher is somehow weirdly regenerating health. Something is wrong. It didn't act like this before. Typical Blizzard. It totally pissed me off. Otherwise, it would be fine even for blood-soaked content. I wish they'd get their act together at Blizzard and make things work like they're supposed to. Damn it. Alright, so this was my Frostburn X-File proc build. You can find it in the video description, and I'll see you in the next Diablo video. Peace.